The Horror Review. Halloween 2. Just the facts. Halloween 2 is the name of an American horror film released in the United States on the 30th of October 1981. It was the official sequel to the 1978 horror classic Halloween, and marked the directorial debut of Rick Rosenthal, who would go on to direct a number of other films and television series including Rocky's Distant Thunder, episodes of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, The Practice and Smallville, and who would return to the Halloween series in 2002 with Halloween Resurrection. The film was written by John Carpenter and Deborah Hill, who had written the original film, with Carpenter directing. Music for the film was provided by Alan Howarth, with a reprisal of the iconic Halloween music composed by Carpenter. Plot. Picking up moments after the events of the original Halloween, Laurie Strode is taken to hospital while Dr. Loomis and the Haddonfield police continue their hunt for escaped maniac Michael Myers. But Myers has not finished with Laurie just yet. Cast. Halloween 2 sees several of the cast of the original Halloween reprising their roles. Jamie Lee Curtis is back as Laurie, the first movie having been her debut and having since gone on to headline a number of other horror films including the likes of Terror Train and Prom Night. Curtis's career would soon head in different directions with films such as Trading Places and A Fish Called Wanda, but she would return to horror and Halloween in 1998, 2002 and 2018. Donald Pleasence is also back as Dr. Loomis, with the success of the original film having revived the actor's career at a later point in his life and made him an icon to a whole new generation. Charles Cyphers and Nancy Stevens, both Carpenter regulars, would also return as Sheriff Brackett and Nurse Janet Marshall respectively. Newcomers to the cast for Halloween 2 include Anna Alicia as Nurse Janet Marshall, Alicia perhaps being most famous as Melissa Agretti on 80s primetime soap opera Falcon Crest, and Lance Guest as Jimmy, Guest being best known for his lead role in the 1984 film The Last Starfighter. Stuntman Dick Wallach replaced Nick Castle as Michael Myers. Trivia. Halloween 2 was the first film to reveal that Laurie Strode was actually the secret sister of the maniacal Myers, thus providing a reason for his continuing obsession with her. The familial aspect would provide a motive for Myers' madness all the way through to the final film in the original franchise, Halloween Resurrection, and be maintained in the Rob Zombie remake and its sequel in the late 2000s, but would be wrecked out of existence in the 2018 film. Halloween 2 was intended to be the final film in the series, with both Myers and Loomis blown to smithereens in the last act. However, the lackluster reception to the Myers-free Halloween 3, which attempted to turn the franchise into an anthology franchise, resulted in both Myers and Loomis both being revealed to have survived in Halloween 2's closing inferno in Halloween 4 in 1988. Halloween 2 is noticeably much gorier than the original film, but director Rick Rosenthal was not responsible for the change. In fact, the extra gore was added by Carpenter himself, who felt that horror movies had changed to become much more violent since the original and that the sequel would be perceived as tame and less frightening by the audience without it. As with the original film, a different cut of Halloween 2 aired on TV, with some new scenes but some deleted ones as well as editing out much of the violence and gore. The film was novelized in 1981 by Jack Martin, a pseudonym for sci-fi horror author Dennis Etchison, which became a bestseller. Halloween 2 was released on VHS and Laserdisc in 1982, and on DVD in 1998, albeit in non-anamorphic widescreen. A corrected version was released in 2001 by Universal Home Video. In 2011 the film was released on Blu-ray for the first time, though the interference with the film to remove the Mustafa Akkad Presents opening and replace it with Universal Presents caused a huge backlash and ultimately resulted in the Blu-ray being revised to return to the original opening. The film was re-released on Blu-ray in 2012 by Scream Factory in a 2-disc collector's edition packed with extras, the same version also being released as part of the complete collection of Halloween films in 2014 by the same company. In October 2012, a series of officially licensed masks, costumes and props from Halloween 2 were released by Trick or Treat Studios. Reaction: Halloween 2 was a hit at the box office, taking in $25 million domestically off a budget of just $2 million, in spite of being less successful than its predecessor. However, the film was not well received critically, with many including Roger Ebert slamming the extra violence and deeming it inferior to the original, though Janet Maslin from the New York Times was something of an outsider, comparing it to other horror and slasher films rather than the original Halloween, and calling it a class act in comparison, praising both the cast and the direction. What I think: Halloween 2 is an enjoyable sequel that starts off very strong, sags a little in the midsection, but then rallies again for a final half hour that is genuinely exciting and scary. While not quite as iconic as the original, Halloween 2 is still classic stuff in my book, and I give it a very strong A-.